Hello, dear friends. I don't know who will be right, but here is a summary of the latest forecast that has been published. Opinion piece. Operational timeline from 2020 to 2029. 10 years of reforms. Allied reconstruction. Controlled dismantling. Divided into 3 phases. Let's start. Gatti and Daniel outlines an operational timeline for Allied reconstruction, leading to the inauguration in 2029, and places its timeline within the current operation, which extends from 2020 to January 2029, with the mitigation of disruptions affecting the civilian population and reform under the law of land, or the land law. In his view, the clockwork mechanism of Allied reconstruction is working perfectly. Daniel's timeline doesn't align with the predictions we have received from other informants who placed the event sooner, but I don't presume to say who is right. I simply summarize the various versions emerging about humanity's liberation process. No one knows the day or the hour, but it's becoming clearer every day. In his view, the operational definition of the corridor leading to 2029 eliminates any calendar-based fixation and anchors the mind in a strategic discipline. The monopoly on quick fixes is shattered in the design of the Allied operation. The legal structuring and the launch of the abundance apparatus execute the transition to freedom on a reference point. The liquidation of the legacy software of the Matrix requires a departure from the short-term civil expectation calendar. Although symbolic milestones serve as cognitive makers and emotional anchors for the population, the overhaul of the global apparatus is carried out over a precisely calculated multi-year time frame. A dark structure built over centuries cannot be dissolved in a single day without plunging civilization into uncontrolled collapse. Gatti and Daniel describes the current operation as a coherent and uninterrupted deployment whose execution will continue until the end of the current term on January 20, 2029. Every hidden and overt protocol follows a logical and inflexible phase. The goal is not a sudden or chaotic disruption, but the controlled dismantling of the legacy trust system within the shadows of the G7, while smoothly stabilizing humanity's collective consciousness. 3 phases. In this 3-year transitional period, the strategic plan is divided into 3 material phases. First, stabilization of the field and confiscation of illicit assets from 2026 to 27. During this phase, the liquidity of the dark side is drained through compliance with Basel III. Second, judicial purging and opening of indictments from 2027 to 28. Once the collective cognitive saturation is reached through the flow of investigation records, the official opening of the 600,000 sealed indictments will be executed, and the deployment of the ABS will ensure the supremacy of social information. Third, complete migration to land law from 2028 to 29. The maritime commercial structure of legacy corporate entities disappears. Sovereign nations return to their constitutional starting point with solid foundations. By January 2029, the planet's infrastructure will be anchored on a legal foundation of absolute freedom. Foundation of freedom and the reform corridor. A fundamental principle of the Allied Master Plan is that it doesn't represent the conclusion of human progress, but rather the definitive seal upon which authentic freedom is anchored. The decentralized deployment of medical beds, the launch of universal basic income, and the enforcement of classified patents serve as instruments to liberate the human family from material and biological enslavement. The authentic era of creation unfolds within the 10-year corridor of reforms. After the complete liquidation of bureaucratic and institutional lines of control, the architecture of the new earth will be entirely in the hands of awakened sovereign beings. Throughout this decade, humanity will witness the rise of decentralized communities, the rebuilding of educational systems based on unmanipulated truth, and the deployment of human creative energy in an unprecedented golden age. The trench of public waiting is steadily being replaced by the active building of a sovereign civilization under the authentic law of Earth, or Earth law. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.